This is PMBC meeting for June 9th, 2021. We are a committee of 7. We have a quorum tonight of 5 people, so we are able to vote on anything that comes before the committee. So we'll call the meeting to order. The first order of business will be the warrant. I'll bring that up. We have 3 items on the warrant tonight. The first one is from Littleton Electric Company in the amount of $14,780.49 for work at the library. The second item is Project Dog, which is a online, I guess, bid document room for bidders to access bid documents. And that's for the fire station phase 2 for $975. And then professional services PSI, that's a testing agency for the library, $1,050 for a total of $16,805.49. And the invoices are attached. I had sent these out earlier. Are there any questions? Okay, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Let me make a motion to accept it.
Oh, yes, that's a good one. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Tamlin seconds. Roll call vote. Bartlett?
Bartlett says yes.
Tamlin?
Tamlin Rossius, yes.
Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
And Mike?
Mike Scaduto, yes.
And Steve Moore, yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes from 5/26/21. Those were amended twice. Any questions or comments on that? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Bartlett moves. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Brian Pasquale.
Okay, roll call vote. Bartlett?
Bartlett, yes.
Tamlin?
Tamlin Rossius, yes.
Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
Mike?
Mike Scaduto, yes.
And Steve Moore, yes. Okay, great. Now we can move down to the library update. Brian, can you give us an update on the library?
Yeah, sure. I was there today. I thought we had a good project meeting and walked the site. We're continuing with our exterior improvements. We have our binder down. We have our vertical granite curbing that went in as well. And next week we'll actually be having our plantings being delivered. As for the interiors, finishes are starting to go in. We've begun the finish on some of the flooring, the interior walls. Paint is going up, as well as acoustical ceiling grid. Steve, I did take your email. I provided some of that feedback to Johnson Roberts regarding some of the seismic restraints. I passed along the compliments from you guys to the contractor. And there was one comment from Mr. Crowley in regards to the tint on the floor. I went over that with the architect. That is not the intention right now. The intention is to put a clear sealer on that. They did take good care and purposeful care of the slab in those areas, and it's the intention of Phil and Johnson Roberts to kind of have that industrial concrete look. So the recommendation, I did talk with him like that. I don't know how far you want me to explore it, but that's as it stands now. The contractor is ready to put a clear seal on that probably within the next month.
Well, it's a recommendation from the committee. Obviously, the designer of record, I think, takes precedence. Mm-hmm. I think when Rich made the comment, we were up in the mezzanine area, and he thought up in the mezzanine area it would look great up there with gray, but
sure,
who's going to be up there to look at it? So
right. Another comment that we did have from Rich, I believe last week, pertained to moisture mitigation that was in the slab.
Yep.
I went over that with the contractor. In the areas that do need to be mitigated, I found that we have a $10,000 allowance in the GMP, and currently we're going to use around 2,000 of that. So this project will get an $8,000 credit on that. So hopefully, I know that he was talking about putting additives into the slab concrete. I think we're going to make out pretty well with getting a credit back with the overall allowance. So,
Okay.
let me see, what else do we have? Our elevator subcontractor will be on site next week. And currently no changes to the schedule. We're tracking to be done the middle of August. From an owner's perspective, I spoke with Access AV about releasing the AV scope for down in the meeting room. Working with Sam Alvarez regarding the moving scope and coordinating the furniture that hopefully will be here end of July, beginning of August. I'm working with Neshoba Integrated Solutions regarding the security package. I'm hoping to get an updated quote from them in the next couple days. They gave us a quote that I felt was a little high, and I felt like it had a little bit more than was needed for a library application. So I wanted to get an updated quote, something that was a little more in line with our budget, while we still have the provisions to add in later on. So also working with Kirby and Nancy Glencross about pulling services into the building, Comtrack and Verizon. Verizon was on site. I think there was some miscommunication what their scope actually was, but they'll be back on site actually pulling service from the street in, as well as pulling the coax cable going from our IT cabinet to room 112, where LCTV's equipment will be housed. Commissioning startup, we had a startup meeting regarding our mechanical startups. All subcontractors have their checklists, and for more of the important HVAC equipment, the energy recovery ventilator, as well as the condensing units, the commissioning agent will be on site for those startups.
Did you have a chance to talk to him about some preventive maintenance?
Yeah, so I've reached out to him about that. He's pretty stretched thin right now, so it's on his plate, and as we progress with the project, I'll make sure that we ramp that up and we can put something together.
And one thing that I meant to talk to you about earlier this week is a closeout checklist. If you could give us a copy of the checklist, and so we can understand what's on that
For the commissioning agent?
For the entire project.
Entire project? Yep, sure. I'll kind of put it together from how, an OPM standpoint, what we look at for as we're closing out the project.
Yep.
In addition to closeout, is there, have they started eyeing like a C of O checklist, to get occupancy? I don't know if they have, typically.
Yeah, Commodore has started to put things together about what's going to be needed in order to achieve that C of O. We'll pull in Ed Mullins from the building department as well regarding inspectional services in the building.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely have those. We did have a concrete pour today. We started pouring our outside back patio, as well as some of our sidewalks out front. And I hadn't reached out to him yet. I probably will tomorrow regarding Littleton Light, who's donating the electric car charger. At this point, we have our provisions in the road, so we're going to schedule and coordinate the delivery of that piece of machinery.
As long as we pay their bill.
As long as we pay their bill, correct. There are three change orders currently right now that I want to bring to the committee's attention. One of which is the BDA bidirectional antenna. We valued it out of the project at the beginning. I don't really know the reasons for that. I want to say I'm not exactly sure the reasoning for.
We didn't know if it was going to be necessary.
Right.
So
come to find out, we did not pass the code of 95% with the frequency that we needed on the lower level. Therefore, it was put back into the project. The original scope, the original price came in over $80,000, which we took a real hard look at. We involved the engineer, his interpretation of some of the 2-hour rating that the cabling needs to be into, and the UL listing on that. We've involved Deputy Clancy. We have that price down into the 60s right now, $60,000 range. And I'm still working to kind of get our finalized number, but we're honing in on that, but it's going to be a requirement in order for the fire department to sign off on this. So
Right.
we do have a placeholder in it in our contingency. It's something that can be absorbed by the contingency right now. But I wanted to make the committee aware of it that, it will be one of our larger change orders to date. It would be something that would have been carried in the original GMP, but we tried to pull that out and we ended up losing this one. So we have to put it back in,
Kind of knew that was going to happen.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Second of which is the change order is for the additional plantings that was requested at the neighbor's property. We received a quote to put some white pines on the property line that was actually a little bit too much and not desirable by the committee, which I think was over $7,000 for some white pines. We went back to the site contractor and asked them if they could provide us something in the $3,000 to $4,000 range with some arborvitaes. The quote came in slightly over $4,000, and that is to plant, I think 5-foot green giants on that property. So with the delivery of plants coming in the next week or two, I ask if we make a decision one way or the other, and I can proceed with the plantings during their mobilization, so we don't have to pay for additional the landscaper coming back out again.
So I think Mark Rombacher, Bob and I were all in favor of the arborvitae. Is that right, Mark?
I'm fine with the arborvitae.
Yeah. So I'd just like the committee to vote to approve the arborvitae, and that's in the amount of what is it? No, that's the paving.
I can try to find it for you, Steve, in a moment.
Oh, wait a minute. I got it. So the total amount is, with Commodore's markup, $6,749.82. Or wait a minute, or is that the paving?
I think the
That's
price
the
is
paving.
$4,400.76.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm on the paving. So anyway, I'd like to have a roll call vote to approve the 4,400 and whatever it was.
$4,400.76.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the arborvitae's in that amount.
Second. Bartlett
Tamlin.
seconds.
Tamlin makes the motion. Bartlett seconds. Roll call vote. Bartlett?
Bartlett, yes.
Tamlin?
Timlin Rassius, yes.
Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
Mike?
Mike Scaduto, yes.
Steve Moore, yes. Motion carries.
And we'll make sure that we work with the landscaper and the landscape architect who will be on site to make sure that the plantings are where they need to go. I think the request is that they remain on the town's property.
Right.
The third change order that I want to make the committee aware of, it was a recommendation from the contractor. Currently, our paving line stops at Shattuck Street, and we have a small jutted out into Shattuck Street. The recommendation from the contractor is to add a little paving, probably 30 by 30 squares on either side of that jutting out in order to make a kind of a clean cut into Shattuck Street and provide, no areas of where water can pond and possibly compromise the seam from where we're coming up to meet Shattuck Street. I can attempt to pull up the picture that
I've got it on my
okay. And the thing is too, I want the committee just to be aware of it now. Final paving won't be for a little while, might be for another month. So we have some time to make this decision. That work would be performed in conjunction with the top coat, where they would cut and remove and put binder down while they were putting top coat on, and then put the top coat on this area that they're suggesting.
So can you see it on my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right.
So the thing I can't speak to is why that wouldn't be part of the base contract as it is. I know we had to cross the street in that one area, which kind of created that smaller square. This would just be to branch that out a little bit on Shattuck Street. I did speak with Ed Mullins this afternoon regarding the ramps that we have on those sidewalks. He just asked that we'd include Chris Stoddard from the Highway Department to make sure he was aware of what the work that we would be doing, and if he was going to be doing anything with the ramps at those area, we could coordinate with him.
So I'd like to get a motion to approve the additional paving work in the amount of $6,242.50.
So moved.
Tamlin makes the motion.
Bartlett will second it.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Tamlin,
Timlin Rassius, yes.
Bartlett,
Bartlett, yes.
Brian,
Brian Pasquale, yes.
Mike,
Mike Scaduto, yes.
and Steve Moore, yes. Okay, great. Thank you.
I think that'll help too, even in the winter months when the first plow comes down that area. We're not ripping up the new pavement that we just joined onto Shattuck Street.
Right.
The last thing I had here is, Mark, did you want me to speak a little bit to what we've been talking about the past few weeks?
Yes.
So I've been working with Mark in regards to some funding that the town has been applying for solar panels on the building. Pending on when that money is available from a state grant, I think the best option would be to engage with our engineer of record, kind of circumvent our architect to avoid their markup, go right to the engineer who designed the solar panels that we did not cover in the original base contract, and have them put together a bid package to be put out to bid for these solar panels. At that point, we could award this. We could have panels on hopefully maybe by the end of the year, which in turn will affect our lead submission from our architect, therefore maybe increasing our grant we get from the MBLC. So we've been working with Mark about putting back the package of the solar panels, but we think the smartest thing to do at this point would be to put that scope of work out to bid in the near future.
So my question is, will this actually fall under the library project, or will the library board of trustees be paying for this? And is this something that they would, I mean, obviously PMBC would manage it, but is this, at this point, is it township money? Or is it library money?
So we have three or four potential funding sources for this right now. So there's a state earmark that has been approved in the Senate budget for $110,000. If the final state budget gets approved, we have access to that money, but we don't have access to that money until the state budget has been signed off by the governor.
Right.
That's the largest portion of the funding. In addition, we've exceeded our $1 million fundraising goal, and we will use additional money from the fundraising to cover this. We also, the lead grant that we get, the leads for being a LEED certified building. The basic grant comes in at 2% of your grant amount if you're just LEED certified. So that's basically $120,000. If we bump it up to a silver level, we get 2.5%, which pushes us up to about $160,000. So that grant cannot be used per se to pay for the solar panels, but it can be used to offset some of the town cost and the town cost can pay for the solar panels then, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's the finance thing that I'm not quite sure of, because If
So I'm
member-
working with Anthony and Cheryl on the exact financing. It's kind of hard to figure out the exact financing until we know the exact cost, though. So
Okay.
when we started, we asked the state for 160,000, thinking that was more closer to an upper limit of the cost. We don't know what the cost is until we put it out to bid. So we'd like to put it out to bid with the goal of getting the solar panels on as soon as possible. You know, theoretically, the state budget, you know, should be decided before July 1st, you know, and we'll have access to the money. If it's not, you know, we can decide at the time that we have the bids in hand whether to proceed or wait for the state money. But we can't get anywhere until we know what the bids come back as. And like Brian said, the solar panels can push us from a LEED certified to a LEED silver, which will give us more money back from the state as well. So
I did
we'd
check
like,
with Bill about that, and he seemed to think that, you know, that's a possibility that could happen, that amount of, you know, that panels or something, that those are a game changer. That could actually push you up into a better category.
So if I understand procurement law for Massachusetts, you have to have funding available to advertise.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, will the trustees in the short term cover that cost?
so we have the money. Well, we don't know what the money is to say that we can cover it, but I would assume yes, right? The trustees have not taken a vote to cover it. We have $100-ish some $1,000 we've exceeded our fundraising goal by. We don't know what the number is for the solar panels to say, you know, if it comes in at, you know, $200,000 or $300,000, then we'll have to revisit it. But with our initial estimate of what they are expecting the panels to come in, I would think yes. I cannot commit that the trustees will cover it because we haven't taken a vote on it, but I would fully expect that we will cover it.
The first cost also that's going to need to be brought up would be the cost for the engineer to put the bid package together.
Yeah.
So that would be the first upfront cost, and then putting their proposal of putting the bid package together, as well as construction administrative services. It may not be a large project, but they still would, you know, I think it would behoove the town to have some CA services of the engineer to come out and make sure that what's being installed is per their design.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, first step, we, as a committee, we can vote to approve to begin the design effort and then see where we go from there, as long as the funding is there.
There's also the other source of funding is if we end up under budget on the project as a whole, we can figure out what funds from the project as a whole can be used, right?
One thing on the procurement end of things, Steve, although you need to have the funding available, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I don't think that if something goes out to bid, you're obligated to proceed with it.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
So, you know, if it goes out to bid and Mark says that we have the funds available, but then the numbers all come in higher than anybody is willing to bite off, then we don't necessarily have to move forward.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, on many jobs, we'll also have the bids, you know, what we call bids in hand, and then that goes out to a vote to whether or not they're going to take and accept that money.
Yep. Okay,
So it actually is part of the state grant, the state earmark. They recommended we go out to bid as soon as possible, because if the budget, you have to spend the money in FY 2022 or you lose it. And if so you need to be shovel ready basically when the earmark is approved, because if it's not approved until late and you're starting the process late, you might not get it done in time. So they actually recommended we start the process as soon as we could.
so end of fiscal 2022 is a year from now.
It's next July.
Yeah.
So
June 31st. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we probably should take have a recommendation to proceed with the design. Is there a motion to do that?
So moved. Bartlett moves.
Is there a second?
Mike Scaduto, second.
Okay, roll call vote. Bartlett,
Bartlett says yes.
Temlin,
Emmeline Rassius, yes.
Brian,
Brian Pasquale, yes.
Mike,
Mike Scaduto, yes.
Steve Moore, yes. Motion carries. Great. Okay. Step one down.
Thank you.
Yep.
I spoke with the contractor today, even though that they would probably be out the door once the solar panels are ready to be put on. Just kind of went through the logistics of where the raceways are so that when the solar panel vendor is on site, we're as close to what we call plug and play as possible. You know, we
So they're gonna
slap them on the roof and turn them on. So,
Put in pull lines.
yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, one of the things that Rich brought up was the appearance of the utilities projecting through the roof
Yep.
on the front of the building, and
Yep.
if we can do something to kind of paint those so they match. The
Yeah,
shingles.
I'll talk with the contractor about that. The large one is the elevator shaft venting,
Yep.
which we're kind of hamstrung with the location of that since the elevator needs to be in the lobby in order to allow the public to get downstairs to the meeting room during off hours.
Yeah, we understand that. Yep.
There's also the CPVC vents that are coming through the roof. I'll talk with them about if there's anything we can do to make kind of a blend into the shingles.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else for library?
Yeah, I'm just curious, Brian, just status on some of those items I talked
Yeah,
about.
I walked with the contractor and the architect today. It's all completely understood that room 112 is not complete. That hasn't just been enforced yet. They haven't finished the wire molding and the location of the extra power.
Yep.
I walked through and did locations of where all our security cameras and where your broadcasting cameras are going to be located in that soffit.
Mhm.
And then I also went through the design on what the conduits on where we go from our floor boxes to our monitors. What we have right now, what is the maximum length that you were looking for on those?
Well, if you go past 40 feet, I'm into $1,000 bite.
Got it. I will, maybe I can talk to you tomorrow, but I think we're under 40 feet.
Okay, it's just
we come up to the wall not adjacent, but right next to the monitor. We have stub outs. So instead of it going directly to the bottom of the monitor, it might just go right to the top and come back down. And
so the conduit goes to the center room, up the side wall, and up over.
I have conduit that's going directly next to our monitors and stubs up into the drop ceiling. So we actually have it's not a
Brian, we
continuous
can
conduit.
talk about this tomorrow. I have no problem with doing that.
Yeah. I walked it with Al, the superintendent, and with Phil. And while the design wasn't a direct conduit from floor box to monitor through, a one piece,
Yeah.
I believe we have a row that's under 40 feet for both of them.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's no lines that are going to the monitor, so that's what kind of threw me a curve. And I didn't check the other one as well. So
Yep.
Thank you very much for that information.
You're welcome. And then I also went through and actually walked the conduit that goes between our IT cabinet and your room 112 about the coax.
Right.
I'm going to leave probably 10, 20 feet of a coil on either end for whatever, our
Right.
needs
Right.
are
Again,
at that
I'm
point.
sorry, but when Verizon decides what ONT model they put in, that's what material they need. So it was like asking me the question of, how do you like the color of the sky tonight? And I'm like,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on library? Moving on to the police station.
Police station, things are going very well. We have a great crew out on site right now with the waterproofing company. The chief is thrilled with the work and the progress that's been done to date. We're making progress on the front of the facade right now, taking down the decorative block, putting it back up. We'll have testers on site that's going to be testing the mortar with the cubes. They're doing mortar batches in very small bagged samples so that we don't have large quantities of mortar with the susceptibility of failing. So we'll have our testing there. We'll take multiple samples per day with the mortar. Once they're done the perimeter of the building, they're going to make their way to the window heads. Those pieces of masonry will be removed, where the flashing and the lintels and the flashing will all be fixed and cut into the existing structure. And at that point, the masonry work will be almost complete, as we will be waiting for windows and their delivery, as they have kind of a longer lead time due to, I think the contractor was blaming COVID for some of the window lead times. But we were on site this afternoon with the architect and with the chief. We've picked the tint of the window that's going to be going back in, and we went over the procedure on what we're going to be doing once we remove the windows. Re-insulating and re-flashing, we went over with the chief and with Ed Mullins. Both seem to be satisfied with the process.
Are you going to be cleaning the building before the windows or after?
My recommendation is they're cleaning their decorative block as they go along. And then what I want them to do is to get the building as done as possible and then come through and clean the entire building.
Okay.
We're also we're gonna review the submitted cleaner that's going to be going on the building, as well as the chief he's got quite a nice plantings around the building. We don't want to be using cleaner or some sort of muriatic acid that's going to ruin his plantings. So
Right.
Hey, Brian, quick question for you. How much dust you're going to think is going to get into that community room? Because I just got done spending a lot of bucks putting in HD cameras, and I'd hate to see that stuff get contaminated.
So the first day we were out there, we had some dust that came in the corner on that community room. We kind of, I threw a little bit of a fit because their spec calls for full protection, and they've committed that to me. So we're almost beyond that point of the meeting room right now, where I don't foresee us doing any more destructive work until we take the window heads out, in which I don't believe that should be very invasive. We're going to be making the cuts around the top and popping out those window headers.
Okay.
Once the windows come out, is that something you want me to let you know if you want to? I mean, is it a matter of covering the cameras or removing them for a little while, or?
Well, since the one camera that's on the front wall was against the trim work, I don't know how much you're going to be messing around with the jam for that window, that location. And I'm trying to figure out whether the best thing to do when that occurs, Brian, is for me just to pull the camera down and then bag the other stuff. So that's why I'm asking.
I think it would be, because part of their scope is to remove all of the interior trim work, because that's the jams, because we're going to be redoing some of that interior stuff, and then they're responsible to put everything back up.
So how about that large screen monitor that I've got sitting there? Is that something that needs to be taken down too?
Next time I'm on site, I'll go in and take a look at it and its relationship to the other windows.
Right. I just don't want motion and any vibrations to just drop things.
Sure. I did speak with Chief about our scheduling and how we might have a lull where we're done masonry and we're waiting for windows. I'm not sure if he still seemed to be a bit undecided whether he was going to be having that meeting room used during that lull time. So I'll let you know if I hear anything from him.
Right. I was just curious again, the end date for the work there, so I can turn on all the new gear.
Yep.
The other thing I apologize I didn't mention or ask was, when can Access AV get into the library room to start working?
Putting your equipment in that room?
Yes, sir.
Good question. I will, I have a meeting to go over their schedule and cost to completes with the senior project manager.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll get finishes and kind of when you'll be able to go in there undisturbed.
Great. And the ceiling tiles will not go up until we're done, right?
Yeah, I told them specifically in the meeting room, in your room, those are the last rooms that I want the ceiling tiles to go in.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brian.
And
Yep.
to wear white gloves, right?
White gloves. Yep.
White gloves.
They're familiar with that routine, but I'd rather not have to do it that way.
Some of those tiles in that area are 2x8, so they're even more difficult to maneuver. So yeah, you need a lot of white gloves.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Member input. We'll go around the room here. Bartlett, anything?
Yeah, going back to the library, I'd like to know what's happening with the knotweed at the bottom of the hill at the property line going into the wetlands.
Good point.
Inside the fence right now.
Yeah, is there any method to deal with on both sides of the fence? Has that made any progress?
Currently, right now, I've talked to the contractor about it. His stance was that he's going to put a plan together on mediating the knotweed that's inside the zone of the construction site.
Yep.
Beyond the limit of work, is going to be tough to have the contractor do anything with that, and that's actually within a buffer zone as well. So it's kind of a delicate area, but he's responsible for the mediation inside the construction fence.
Okay, thanks.
Timlin,
I'm all set, thank you.
Brian?
Just one thing for Brian, real quick. Where do we stand with contingency on the library after those 3 change orders that you just kind of reviewed tonight?
Yep. Currently, right now, what I have, this is kind of round numbers right now. So what we
Yeah,
had
that's
is
all. Just looking for a general idea. It doesn't have to be
Yep.
too.
We had roughly 400,000. Let me take one quick peek. I'm sorry. I actually want to be as accurate as I can be here. It's a bit different with these the CM at risk jobs than others, where the contractor actually has their own contingency as well. And they're going to be providing some of that money back because they haven't spent all of their contingency. But as we sit here, our original contingency was roughly $300,000, and we had a soft cost contingency of $111,000. What we have to date is submitted. We have approved $155,000, and not issued is $182,000. So we're roughly slightly over on those, but that also plays into the $300,000 contingency that the construction manager has as well. So based on both contingencies, we are underneath when it comes to change orders.
Okay.
And I can provide you, after we have our cost to complete, where we stand and the amount of money that will be coming back from the CM. From the overall, I believe it was $12.1 million was their GMP, and where they're going to fall, slightly underneath that and what we get back from that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just looking to get a kind of a rough idea as we come down the stretch here. That's all. Thank you.
Got it.
Good point, Brian. Thanks. Mike?
I'm all set. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, and I have nothing. One last chance, if anyone has anything. Otherwise, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Brian.
Second, Bartlett seconds.
Okay. All in favor, Bartlett?
Bartlett, yes.
Tamlin?
Timlin Rossius, yes.
Brian?
Brian Pasquale, yes.
Mike?
Mike Scaduto, yes.
And Steve Moore, yes. Thanks, everyone, for your participation. It's greatly appreciated, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Too.
Thanks.
you.
You
Thanks,
too.
Steve.
Bye-bye.